Tonight on the Daily Debrief, her parents were shot and killed. Now a Wisconsin girl has turned up alive. A bumpy week in the trial of a man accused of killing a California family. And a verdict where a Florida woman is accused of killing her boyfriend. Plus, a son points to his father and says, "That's the man who killed my mother." That's straight ahead on the Daily Debrief for Friday, January 11th. And good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Daily Debrief. Tonight, a Wisconsin family shot and killed their daughter, missing since that October crime. Tonight, the girl is safe and a suspect is under arrest. 13-year-old Jayme disappeared after a frantic 911 call. Police responded, discovered the bodies of her parents, and a search ensued. Claus finally turned up yesterday in a neighborhood about 70 miles north of her western Wisconsin home. She approached a woman who was walking a dog and said she'd been held in a house nearby. That woman ran to a neighbor's house for safety and called police. Both spoke to Law&Crime this afternoon.
When I saw her, I knew she was in trouble because I knew wherever she came from, she left in a hurry. I didn't know if somebody had just dropped her off or because she just had on a sweatshirt and leggings and shoes that were too big for her. All I knew is when she told me who she was, I obviously know the circumstances of her disappearance and what happened to her parents, and I knew the person who had her was not a good person, and I needed to have her in a safe place. I went to the first house I thought of because I kind of know the guy there, but he wasn't home. So then I said, okay, Kristen lives down the road from me. I know she's a teacher. I know she'll help us.
My first thoughts were I basically went into shock. I mean, it was like I was literally seeing a ghost. We've seen pictures and TV ads and all this stuff, and to have her come in the house and say, "This is Jayme Claus, call 911, was unreal. You know, I didn't think she was alive, and then to see that in my kitchen was quite the shocker. She said she did not know him before this happened. We didn't ask any questions other than who was it and what are they driving, because we were on the phone with 911 at the time, so we were able to give them the name and the color of the car that he was driving anyway. We asked her if she was okay, we asked her if she wanted like something to eat, something to drink, and she said, "No, I'm fine." And she looked really cold, so I just got a blanket off of the couch, and I said, "You look cold. If you're not, you can take it off, but put this blanket on because you look like you're freezing." She was here for approximately a half an hour altogether. When the police, it was probably about 15 to 20 minutes before the police arrived at the house. And then they were here for maybe 5 minutes or so. Once they identified her, they had another car come in and get her out of here and get her to safety. I told Jayme when she was sitting on my couch yesterday, I just said, "I am so glad to see you."
Police arrested 21-year-old Jake Patterson, whom they say Claus immediately identified. They say Patterson had no prior contact with law enforcement, but meticulously planned to attack the parents and target Jayme Claus. There's a press conference happening live right now in Wisconsin. In this case, we're going to listen to some of it right now live.
We believe that the suspect was out looking for her when law enforcement made contact with him. On Monday, January 14th, so Monday this coming week, at 3:30 p.m., the suspect will make his initial appearance in Barron County Circuit Court to be formally charged with 2 counts of first-degree intentional homicide and 1 count of kidnapping. I know all of you are searching for the answer of why any of this happened. Believe me, so are we. Not knowing will plague us for some time, but again, our goal is to continue to do what is right for Jayme and seek justice and seek that justice is served. At this time, I can take some questions.
Sheriff, do we know how he knew about Jayme? Was it a social media connection? Was there some obsession? There must have been at some point a connection between Jayme and this suspect, Mr. Patterson.
What I can tell you is we don't believe there was a social media connection, and we're determining how he became aware of Jayme. I do not have that answer in complete form yet to release.
Sheriff, what was the distance between the suspect's home and where Jayme approached the dog walker?
That I was not able to consider.
An estimate about how far it was?
It wasn't very far. She was on foot, and it wasn't very far. No, I couldn't guess that, but was not a long distance, I was told.
What about the suspect's home? What kind of conditions was she kept in?
I don't know the answer to that. I just know it was a home in a rural setting.
Is there any evidence that she had been assaulted?
We're not releasing any evidence about Jayme's condition at this time, except she's talking, and she communicated with our team up there, and she was released from the hospital. I think those are all great things to talk about, and to move forward with this recovery purpose. I mean, Jayme is the hero in this case. There's no question about it, and she's the one that helped us break the case, along with everybody else that worked on it, from law enforcement to all the people.
Sheriff, can you talk more about the investigation? What are you searching for? What are you searching right now? And are you retracing the steps both of them took over the last 88 days?
Yes, those are all things we're doing. We're currently serving a search warrant at the house in Gordon. We'll be there for several more hours. DCI and the FBI will be there. They're looking at every room in that house, any piece of evidence that could be used in this case, but they plan on being there for several more hours, looking at everything in the house.
Is there a property in Barron that you're also serving a search warrant on?
We are not serving any search warrants in Barron County.
Sheriff, do you know if there were other people in the house at any point when Jayme was in there other than the suspect?
I do not know the answer to that question.
These last 3 months, was she aware that people have been looking for her intensely?
I do not know the answer to that question either. I haven't talked to the investigators. That they just gave us a small briefing on Jayme. They didn't give us any.
How did the suspect restrain her in the home?
Do not know the answer to that question.
Sure. How are you getting this information that he targeted her? Is this all coming from Patterson?
This is all coming from our investigative team.
Sure.
So,
I'm sorry to interrupt. Just to be clear, though, the suspect was not home when she left.
when she escaped the home yesterday, he was not at the home.
But at some point, he would have been returned, and then you say went back out looking for her?
Well, when we had contact with him, he appeared to be out looking for her. Again, I can't comment that I haven't confirmed that answer to that question.
So when you made the arrest, he was not in the house?
That is correct. He was in his vehicle driving around.
Did she know her parents had died?
I don't know the answer to that question. She was in the home when the incident took place.
Are there any indications that he was stalking her, that he made any contact with her, that she was aware that somebody was on the radar there?
We don't have any information that he had made any contact with anyone in the family at any time.
Do you have any idea about his whereabouts during the day, from day to day? Have you been able to track his patterns for the last few weeks to see what he's been up to?
All I know is he was not employed, so he didn't go to a job. Other than that, that's all I know about his travel. And I know he was not at home when she escaped, and I don't know where he was.
Does it concern you that someone who doesn't have a criminal record or history would all of a sudden have this sort of violent outburst? Is there anything in the home that indicates why he may have turned this direction?
I'm not into the criminology of that, of somebody's mind. But, this case from day one has concerned me. The volatility of this crime, to shoot two people and kidnap a 13-year-old girl, is very concerning. And so, we want to get the answers that you guys all want, that we want to give to Jayme, and we want to give to the court so that we can get a conviction.
What is Patterson's demeanor been since he's been caught? Has he been remorseful at all?
Patterson has been in our jail without incident, in a cell, by himself.
Sheriff, are investigators on your team looking at Patterson? I know he has no criminal record. I mean, family history, issues, possible.
Yes, we did get a tip on a sibling that has some criminal record, and our DCI and FBI teams are looking into that.
Some criminal record that seems similar. If I read
I didn't look at his record. That was just came in our tip line.
Sheriff, can you get any more to the escape itself? Escape, the word implies that there was a lock or some type of restraint. How did she get out?
I don't know the answer to that. That's the answer that, again, I'm not looking to put pressure on Jayme or her family. We want to reunite her, and some of that information can wait until the court hearing on Monday, when more will be released in the criminal complaint, because that'll be a very detailed. But again, we want to let Jayme settle in. We want to take care of her. We've got the suspect, the only suspect we're looking for. We're not looking for any other suspects at this time. We have him in custody. We are reunited Jayme. that has been the goal of this department and this team behind me and all of the law enforcement officers out there.
Sheriff, you're saying the primary reason, though, he went to that home was kidnapping. Was that his main reason for going there that night?
That is the main reason for going to that residence, we believe.
Can you tell us any more about the 911 call that came from the home that night? Are you able to glean anything that you can share with us that would give us some insight as to what happened?
No, we briefly talked about that today. That 911 call is very inaudible, and even knowing some more facts, we still can't get any information off that 911 call.
You're not looking at other suspects, but do you think other...
We're listening to a sheriff's press conference live out of Wisconsin there, where the local sheriff is talking about the disappearance of Jayme Closs. The suspect, Jake Patterson, now facing murder and kidnapping charges. Now to the so-called McStay family murders in California, where defendant Charles Merritt faces a possible death sentence if convicted in the killings of his business associate, Joseph McStay, McStay's wife, and their 2 sons. The family disappeared February 4th, 2010. For a time, authorities thought they may have moved to Mexico to avoid business debts. Their bodies, however, turned up buried in the Mojave Desert in November 2013. 1 year after that, authorities arrested Merritt. Merritt's DNA is on the steering wheel and gear shift of the McStay family vehicle found abandoned near the border. But the defense says that's because Merritt and McStay shook hands at a restaurant before the disappearance. A police officer in this case testified yesterday that he entered the family home and sensed something bad had happened.
Did you see any obvious signs of blood, tissue, dead bodies, anything like that?
No, sir.
What else would you look for?
Blood on the walls, door jams, broken glass, maybe broken windows, things that would normally be what you might believe to be out of place, maybe something near the front door, like as they're getting dragged out, something just to that effect.
You didn't see any of those things?
No, sir.
But you called homicide?
Yes, sir.
So if this was not normal, why'd you call homicide?
For several reasons. One, when we did go in, it appeared that there was plates of food that were half eaten and just left, and they weren't picked up or moved. People who have families, normally after they're done eating, will at least take their dishes to the sink or counter, or somebody will pick them up. It's a missing family of 4, which is not something that's reported on a daily basis, which strikes to have a little concern as far as, maybe something is going on.
One issue in this case was this mention of the defendant's criminal record.
He had a record.
The defendant told you he didn't want to go in that house because he had a prior record.
He had had some trouble with the law, and he didn't want to go in. I don't remember the exact wording, but
that's what the defendant told you?
If I said that, I remember it way better back then.
Okay, but the defendant told you something along those lines of why you didn't want to go in the house?
Yes, sir.
Attorney Jessica Jackson Sloan is with me tonight on the Daily Debrief. Jessica, good to see you again. That last exchange led to an objection, but the judge said it wasn't timely and kept the case going. But now the jury knows the defendant has a prior record. What's your analysis of that?
Yeah, if I was the defense attorney, I'd be spending some time making it clear that even though he has a prior record, none of the things that he has a prior record for are at all related to this case, right? This is an extremely gruesome case where you've got somebody come in and sledgehammer 4 individuals. Meanwhile, he's got a criminal record for larceny and theft and gambling, and, that doesn't mean that he is a murderer.
Not the same sort of thing. Prosecutors say this murder happened in the McStay family home. The home was messy, but there's been no evidence presented yet at trial to indicate that a crime directly occurred there. So why might prosecutors be focusing so intently on that?
They keep talking about how this happened at the house, but we don't have any forensics that show that this happened at the house. You've got the mom who testified earlier this week. She said that she came into the house, she smelled a foul odor. But again, she didn't say she smelled the odor of blood or she smelled an odor of, people having been killed there. She just said, I smelled a foul odor. She cleaned up, although apparently did not clean up some of the half-eaten plates that had been left around. But again, this is such a gruesome case. There would have been blood splatter all over the place. There would have been, at least some signs of somebody fighting back when there are 4 individuals who have been killed, and there was none of that.
Exactly. There's a lot of unknowns in this case, including that unknown DNA in the grave. Jessica will try to check in with you again at the end of the broadcast. A verdict to announce in the case of a Florida woman accused of murdering her boyfriend by stabbing him to death. Authorities say Melanie Eam fled from Florida to Maryland after they say she killed James Berry. Eam's defense attorneys said someone else in the house stabbed the victim, then tried to clean up the knife. The defense said Eam fled because she was scared of the true killer. The first trial in this case resulted in a hung jury, and that led to this retrial. This time around, it was a guilty verdict against Melanie Eam. We will be right back after this here on The Debrief. Dramatic testimony yesterday in a case where a then 12-year-old says he watched his father murder his mother. This case is coming to us out of southern New Jersey, where defendant Jeremiah Monell faces a series of charges, including first-degree murder over the death of his wife, Tara O'Shea Watson, in December 2016. Prosecutors say he stabbed her more than 40 times before dumping the knives he used behind their kitchen stove. Monell fled and led police on a manhunt for 2 weeks. The maximum penalty for Monell, if convicted, is life without parole. The defendant's son, Jeremiah Monell Jr., testified that he witnessed the attack when he was 12. He's now 14. Let's listen as he identifies his own father as the killer. The judge asked us to disguise Jeremiah Jr.'s face.
Jeremiah, is your mom alive?
No.
What happened to her?
She was stabbed.
Who stabbed her?
Jeremiah Edward Monell.
Who was Jeremiah Edward Monell?
My father.
Was your father in the courtroom?
Yes.
Did you point him out and describe what he was wearing?
A suit.
Let the record reflect the witness identified the defendant in the courtroom.
From there, Jeremiah Monell Jr. described the actual attack.
I heard a huge thump, and I crawled over to my curtain to peek, and I saw my mother on the floor and my father standing above her.
Do you remember hearing anything after that thump?
Yes, my mother screamed in pain because she had a back problem, and she said, "Ow."
And what was your dad doing?
He then jumped on her and started choking her.
How long do you think your dad was choking you on?
A minute, maybe less. He got up and he got a knife off the fridge, a kitchen knife.
After he got up, did you hear your mom say anything?
Yes, she said, "Let me die in peace."
And where did your dad go after your mom said that?
To the kitchen to grab a knife off the fridge.
Did you actually see your dad grab the knife?
No, but I did hear the metal of the knife rub on the wood, or the plastic, I mean. He went back to my mother and stabbed her.
Did you see anything in your dad's hands while he walked back to?
Yes.
What did you see?
A knife. He stabbed my mother. I looked away.
Did you hear anything?
Just the gushing of him stabbing her.
After you looked away, what did you do?
I climbed in my bed.
And what did you do after you climbed in your bed?
I went under my blanket and started crying.
Next, the defendant's son described the aftermath of that attack.
I looked back and moved the curtain a little bit, and I saw my dad. He was smoking. He walked to my room because he heard something, and he saw me awake. And then he started saying, "You should not be awake. You saw it."
Objection. What's the objection? Oh. again, what did you hear your father say when you came back into your room?
He said, you saw it, and he was saying, you should not have saw it.
Did you say anything to your dad?
I said, you killed her. And I said that a few times.
What did your dad say after you said that to him?
He said, you should not have saw it.
What's the next thing that happened after that?
He told me to go to sleep.
And did you go to sleep?
I just went under my blanket and still cried.
You remember seeing your father again that night in your room?
Yes. He woke me up and told me, to go out the back door and that you're probably going to go with your aunt and uncle. Or aunt or uncle.
Do you know what aunt or uncle he was talking about?
Yeah.
Who?
Actually, more descriptive, he said, you're going to go with Uncle Josh or Uncle Eddie.
Back to Jessica Jackson Sloan one last time this evening. Jessica, this is a whole case boiled down into one or two sentences. The son is the witness, and the defendant's palm print is on the handle of the knives. Where else does the defense go in this?
Well, this used to be his house. So his palm print being on the handle of the knife, I think that the defense should stress that obviously they share custody. This used to be his house. He could have gotten his palm print on the handle of the knife at some other time. In terms of the son's testimony, this is really hard testimony to hear. But I do want to point to the fact that people who have been through a traumatic event, as this child has, growing up in an abusive house, there's not always reliable witness testimony. Witness testimony is not always reliable. He could be conflating incidents where he saw his mother being abused by his father, but not killed by his father. So if I was the defense attorney, I'd be bringing in an expert on trauma, bringing in an expert on the reliability of witness identification, and I would be proceeding forward and saying that he's not guilty.
I could see the defense also saying, hey, look, the witness appeared coached. Look, and the defendant rejected a deal that would have only kept him in prison for 30 years. It's possible that he could get more if he's convicted. Jessica Jackson Sloan, appreciate you joining me tonight on The Debrief.
Thank you for having me on.
That's all the time we have for this evening here on the Daily Debrief. An important programming reminder, our live trial coverage begins at 9 a.m., but I'll see you back here on the Debrief at a different time on Monday from 4 to 4:30 Eastern. I will be sure to see you then.